Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Village Hall in Fredonia, New York. I'm your Mayor, Mike Ferguson, for tonight's public hearing at 911 Church Street in Fredonia for March 3rd, 2025, beginning at 5:30 p.m. This being the time and place for public hearing on proposed local law number 3 of 2025, entitled Local Law Amending Section 208-36 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia, reports of violations, citations. Proof of publication is shown, and I call this hearing to order. If anybody that would like to speak on this law. Jim? Jim Lennon.
Yes. Good evening. The new law addressing the fines and costs, fees according for the parking. Back about, a number of years ago here, the revenues for the parking department, parking meters, were about $72,000. And that was back when the meters in town were mechanical. And as time went on, there was claims that the meters were becoming too old and they needed to be replaced. So when I was on the board at the time, that we approved the replacement. There was an expenditure to have a replacement with the new electronic or digital metering. Was supposed to improve things. Well, revenues didn't necessarily increase that much over that amount of time, and they still haven't. And I see that there's a discussion of going to a new type of kiosk type idea. Well, I know we also investigated the kiosk type of metering, and it was very, very expensive to get involved with it. Right now, I know the village doesn't have funds. There's no money with this in the village budget for the cost of transition to that type of metering. I understand the need with the cost of it increase for the increase in the fines and fees. I could see that increase. I just don't want to have it put too much of a burden on people coming to our community or wanting to live and shop here. If people obey from what I see here, it's not an increase to the meters themselves, it's increased to the fines, so that it's, and that's always been in place. So if you abide by the law and you do the right thing, you're not going to get any cost or burden to put upon you. It's only if you don't abide by our community's laws. So that shouldn't be a problem. And it may increase our revenues to some degree. But it appears to be where the problem is actually management. Now, I know that the police department has been pretty good about staying within their budget, but the revenues are significantly down in that area. If they were up, they would have up to that $72,000 at least, even at the old amount of charges. They would have had a fairly significant net return this year. You know, they brought in about $40,000 over this on the last fiscal year, end of last fiscal year, and so it could be and they did have their expenses down a bit that year, which they could have realized a really decent return, but unfortunately this hasn't happened. So there's more officers in that department from back in the day when there was larger revenues. So it shouldn't be an issue with managing, of getting the people out there to check those meters, put the tickets out there, and keeping people in line. And when they do that, it tends to push people to move from the meters appropriately to keep people moving in our community, so they're not just sitting in one space for a very long time when somebody could be utilizing that to go to that business. So anyhow, the law increase in fines I'm okay with. It's just the management of that department that needs to be addressed, because that's where it appears the issues are. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Just, Jim, real quickly, you had mentioned
Sure.
that we're looking at we're not looking at kiosks, you're absolutely right. They're crazy expensive.
Yeah,
Crazy expensive.
Well, I was mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
one of the earlier
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
And like I said, we looked into it, they're crazy expensive, the whole
Yeah.
system management of it.
Yeah.
So if we just make sure that the meters that we have are functioning, make sure that they're attended to. You know, same with all the other areas of off-street parking, all like it details here. If it's looked after, it should actually bring a fairly decent revenue.
So
Even at the old pricing it would have, obviously, because that's what those the records have shown, that it is possible even under the old structure.
in lieu of the kiosk, we're looking at a parking app that they use in a lot of different municipalities. You would download the app, and then we could get rid of most of the meters. You still have to probably.
Problem with that, there's a problem with that. The problem with the app system is that people from outside the community don't know.
Which is why I say we would
Yeah.
keep some metered.
Well,
some
even
meters.
some, because then you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna have people that, I mean, you either meet or you don't. You know, that's what it comes down
So I
to.
would say, I went to Erie and I didn't know there was gonna be an app, but there was, so I downloaded it and took care of it. It's not that hard. There are instructions on the meters, how to do it. It took me 2 minutes.
The other
Well,
issue-
And I am not
well,
very
you know,
technically
I
savvy.
mean, it was nice that you did it, but I find that just one more inconvenience, one more thing that people have to put on their phone, if they have a phone, most everybody has one, or do they want to? I mean, I don't want to sit, pull up to a restaurant and run into another town, and maybe you didn't mind, but I wouldn't want to sit there in front of the restaurant. Actually, you know what, that did happen to me in Buffalo. I went and pulled up in front of a restaurant down, I won't name the restaurant, and it was, it was in Buffalo in between, for a wedding, and I was pulled in front of a restaurant in between the ceremonies, and we, had to use an app, you know what, we just decided, it wasn't worth it. So we went around the corner to a different restaurant that didn't have to deal with it, they had their own parking. So,
The other thing we're having problems with the meters is it's so cold this year that the batteries freeze.
well,
So
there's gotta be a solution to that too, and it could be just old batteries, but you could talk to the company that made them. And if it's an issue with the product, you have the company that made them deal with it. I mean, there's solutions to these things. It didn't, we've had cold years in other years, I mean, since they were implemented. Maybe there's an issue with them at this point that need to be addressed. But like I said, it's not just, and how many of those meters? Is it all of the meters that are doing it?
Quite a few.
Yeah, whatever. But I think
35%.
my guess is that the batteries are getting dead. They're getting old, and as you know, batteries in cold weather, they don't last as long. And that works with car batteries, or works with all batteries. Cold does affect the battery itself. So maybe you have to change them more often in the winter time. But that's again, maintenance and tending to the products that we're utilizing and addressing those issues. Is there any other thoughts that I could address?
I don't have any, but thank you.
Sure. Is there anybody else this time would like to address about the parking code or violations codes? Go ahead.
Hi. I'm Jerry Mathewson from 44 Chestnut Street. And I didn't know until I got my paper about 4 o'clock, because it comes in the mail, that this meeting was here, so I'm a little late, but anyway, that's not much time. Mine is very simple, not anywhere near as technical. I just have, within the last couple of weeks, tried to put quarters into meters here, trying to do the right things, and I had one that wouldn't accept a quarter, and so I couldn't do much about it. And I had another one that I put a quarter in, it went to 5 minutes. I went another quarter in, and it went to 10 minutes, where it should have been an hour. So I'm saying, if you're gonna do these things and increase the prices, make sure that your meters are working correctly. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Remeter the meters, right?
Meters and meters, yeah. And you're right, I mean, some of the meters, I think those cups in the meters themselves are fairly small, and they get filled up pretty quickly. So sometimes when you're trying to put quarters in, it's not that they're not working, it's that they're full. They're
Which
not
means
being
that they
emptied enough.
intended to
They're being
more.
emptied enough.
That they need to be
Yeah.
empty. That means you're not tending to them.
Yeah.
Some
And
of
you
them
can
are
think of, you know,
bad. I walked down the street last summer and put quarters in a lot of meters to see, and, because some of the ones near where my business is, you can put a quarter in and 2 minutes later it's flashing violation. So they're just not functional properly, and, you know,
Maintenance,
either
yeah.
replacement or
Maintenance.
maintenance is gonna be necessary.
Are you gonna kick back from the police when they get tickets there?
No, but I've written a couple letters to the court on behalf of customers.
I mean, doesn't that bring us to address another issue of maintenance then?
Yes, it
How,
does.
how are we looking at our meters and their state and their condition?
Well, they're replacing a certain percentage of them every year, but they're not inexpensive.
No.
And that's, you know, if we were to go to the app, that's one less expense we would incur every year, because we buy some every year. And if we have to start replacing batteries, the batteries are expensive, so that's another expense that we don't incur.
Yeah.
And we could look at the east and west parking lots, because those aren't metered at all, most of them aren't metered. And we could start charging parking for there if it was an app. A lot of those, and I just realized this, it's like 23-hour parking, it says no overnight parking, 23-hour parking.
Correct.
So I'm not
Yes.
sure who's watching those cars and make sure they're gone for at least 1 hour a day. I'm not sure if that's actually
Yeah,
happening.
we've had quite a bit of problems with the east side parking lot with people leaving their cars there.
Mhm.
Got a pretty good idea when all the other cars are cleaned off and there's still 2 feet of snow on.
Well, I think some of the owners of the rental units use that as their
Right.
parking for their tenants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because they don't want to provide them.
And again, maybe it's a short-term pass for those folks that are
Yeah.
maybe students or whatever. And numbering those spots so that the pass coincides with the number on the spot. And,
Kind of like they do at the Russo building.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this subject? Once again, is there anybody else that would like to speak on this subject? Is there here footsteps? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this subject? If not, we'll close this portion of the public hearing.
I make a motion that we end the public hearing.
Second?
Trustee Wendell,
Aye.
trustee Syracuse,
Aye.
trustee Brockler,
Aye.
trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, your attendance. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Fredonia Workshop. I'm Mike Ferguson. Tonight's workshop is being held at 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York. And it is March 3rd at 6 o'clock. This is our workshop for the Village of Trustees. Say roll, trustee Esperson.
Here?
Trustee Brockler.
Here.
Trustee Wendell.
Here.
Trustee Syracuse.
Here.
Trustee Twitchell is requested the night off. Start with resolutions. Resolution number 1, Fredonia High School banner request.
This is to hang,
For the
For the-
play.
yeah, for the spring musical.
Yep.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Festivals Fredonia banner request.
Fairly routine.
Yeah.
NCCS banner request.
See a problem with
Any discussion?
Yeah, that's,
There's a
Going
conflict
to-
time-wise,
yeah.
I believe, with two of those.
yeah, there's a conflict between the high school.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I was gonna say was, most of the people that request these banners have already spoken to Wade over at DFT, so he's responsible for the conflict if
For
there's
coordinating.
overlap. Yeah,
Okay,
And also, they've hung two before. doesn't-
okay.
it. I was gonna say, we've hung two at one time.
The Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce dues approval. DPW furnace replacement approval. Training request, Louis Fred. Training request of David Feld.
Hold on a second, there won't be any mileage or anything for that training? You all gonna cram into the truck again?
Anything on training request of David Feld? Farmers market approval.
I did have a question on that, in regards to insurance liability.
Yes.
Does the village, I know that, Tom does submit the list of vendors. Is that correct?
it's a blanket insurance form.
Okay. The question was, or at least that I had, was he should have, and I believe you should have an itemized list of who all the vendors are and their proof of insurance.
Right. I believe I have it. This year, his letter said upon request, but
Okay.
they have to, I will request it.
Could you?
Get it, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure,
Just to cover that base.
yeah.
Anything else under resolutions? If not, we'll go to department reports. DPW.
Yeah, just looking forward to that furnace and kind of,
Chilly over there?
yeah, it's intermittent, you know what I mean? It's,
Well, these guys should be out working now, so it's.
what's that?
So you guys should be out working anyhow, so.
Yeah,
You get that thing done just about the time it's 60 every day.
probably,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Looking forward to get that in and it's fun.
Could you do us a favor when you get your paving schedule done, and give it to us so we can publicize it for the public? I mean, there may be changes to it as the year goes by, but just so in general, kind of helps everybody know what's coming.
Yep.
Super. Also want to thank you, the number of compliments we got this year. Well, hopefully you don't have to talk about much more plowing, but the plowing and keeping streets and the sidewalks fresh and clean from all that debris. It was difficult with the amount of snow that we had this year, and anything that was addressed, anything that was requested, you and your team responded to immediately, so thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, I'll pass it along.
Scott, how's the roads out?
So we got a little bit left, we're doing okay.
Good.
So I hope we don't need it anymore, but we're all set.
Good.
I do want to explain to the general public, there were complaints both ways with regards to plowing the sidewalk. By New York State law, any homeowner and business, you are responsible for your own sidewalk. The sidewalk plowing was done as a consideration and a courtesy, especially knowing how many people we have in the community that are elderly. So we thought it was helping. There were a couple times this year when the weather had changed, people are walking back and forth on mostly Central Avenue and create a footprint freezes overnight, and the plow goes over the top, which created a walking hazard. Scott reacted right away, but our point being, technically, the sidewalk and the driveway entrance is your responsibility. So we thank you for that. Keep in mind that especially this time of year when it does snow and does freeze, you may get bumps in the sidewalk that we tried to take care of, but at this point in time, it's still by state law, the responsibility of the business owner or the homeowner to make sure that you take care of that as well. Fire department. Nothing. Police department.
Over the last week, myself and my command staff has met at the DA's office. We had a 5-hour meeting last week. Working out issues with the discovery law from New York State. We're having a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of demands on a department our size. So we tried to work through these issues with the other departments in this county and the district attorney's office. Last Friday, myself and the mayor met with the FSU Student Association. In attendance were the leaders of the student unions and president of the college. We discussed, we had a long meeting about non-Fred Fest. I think there was an agreement that something needs to change. This campus would like to work towards change and try and resolve some of those issues. That was the good. The bad is it's too late to do anything this year. They don't have any funding set aside this year, so there's no way of putting funding together or making plans this year. So I will work through that with local law enforcement.
The good thing on that day was that I think both you and I appreciated. The gentleman who heads up all the sororities, fraternities, and clubhouses, sports clubs, has some ideas on how to, one, communicate the rights and the wrongs of Fred Fest, but also to punish those that don't follow those rules and regulations. So I think the one thing that we were both impressed with, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but the communication from students to students, which is ultimately important, is probably the best it will be, and hopefully that puts a damper on some of what we're going to have to deal with this year.
We pointed out that honestly this has been a really good year as far as matters in which we deal with students with the campus. It's been a really good year. I mean, I can sit here and honestly say over 90% of what my police department does is not campus related anymore.
I have a couple questions about that meeting. So when we first met a couple weeks ago, the group life director talked about there's a student handbook, there's policies, behavioral standards that they're supposed to meet, and that if they did not meet those standards, they were willing to have consequences. Whatever those consequences are, we talked about graduation, talked about some other things. Are they willing to follow through with that, or was that just something that they thought we wanted to do?
I would like to think they're willing to follow through with that.
Okay.
We talked about it as the code of conduct.
Yeah.
The problem with Fed Fest is students we do deal with, they're at the end of the semester, they've taken the attitude, I'm done. There's not much you can do to me. It's just, one more week and we're done. And frankly, the ones that are causing the trouble, they're not like the people we met on Friday who are they're gonna be leaders in this any community they're a part of. In the past, they have worked with us. They go before their judicial committee. The problem is, we try to impress this upon them, and is when they have these parties, the intent's not to get out of control, but with social media, word of mouth, we get people from outside our community who come here for numerous reasons, and they're the ones we end up dealing with because they don't come here with a place to go, they congregate. And we have several streets in this community that are congested with multi-use housing, and they literally take over the streets. And we do find some of the college kids recognize they can't handle it, but by that time it's too late. So there's several factors that lead up to a powder keg. But discussing it with the college, there were a lot of student ideas that really took shape at the table. I believe the president listened. And I think the idea is to find something for them to do on campus that week of school before exams. And we all recognize they want an opportunity to blow off steam before exams, say goodbye to their friends, celebrate the end of their year. We all recognize that. The problem is the ones that come here looking for a good time aren't them, but we end up dealing with it.
So with that in mind, I know that when we met at the incubator, some of the other law enforcement agencies indicated that they'd be willing to dedicate more manpower on that day. Have they followed through with that to you and indicated they're willing to do that?
I have spoken with the sheriff and the captain, and we will be meeting shortly to discuss what we're going to do.
I do want to say that President Colson took the time to say there is a code of conduct that the students sign when they become students, and that code of conduct follows them no matter whether they're on campus or off campus. And that's really how it started the conversation where, and I won't mention names just because I don't want those leaders to get in trouble, but it was the leaders that say we have to hold those students to the code of conduct. And again, we'll mention it again in the main meeting, but it's the bulk of the trouble isn't necessarily the Fredonia State College students. It's the people that some Fredonia State sororities, fraternities invite to the community that aren't here to make new friends. They're here for customers.
I assure this board that there is cooperation amongst area law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
We've never started any discussion about Fred Fest this early in my career. And there will be a very large police presence on that weekend. So whatever happens, it's not going to be for the lack of planning or maximizing whatever staff we can. Unfortunately, it comes at a cost. And I just hope the cost is only monetary. I hope nobody gets hurt. And that's our goal. It's always our goal.
And I would say if there are homeowners, people who are renting to students, that you enforce whatever rules that you have in your facility and monitor those facilities during the weekend. Every hand in this helps, and every legal hand in this helps. But if you have college students who are renting from your property, remind them what the rules and regulations are. And if you don't know what your occupancy is for your particular building, which you should, but if you don't, feel free to call zoning and code enforcement, and they would be happy to tell you just how many people you are or are not allowed to have on your property. But every motion, every discussion helps. So, and I want to thank the police chief for being there. I want to thank Greg Myers for being there. I want to thank the sheriff's department. In the first meeting, I didn't get a chance. The New York State Police as well as the Dunkirk Police and the new Chief Witkowski. And I also want to thank the college police force, which was there at both meetings. And an air of cooperation and a readiness to help. And it is greatly, greatly appreciated. So, Chief, I thank you for being the head of the spear on this effort.
I have one more item. I've been in discussion with my assigned trustees regarding our staffing levels. By the end of the month, I will be 3 people down in a department that size. That's a critical level. It's 120 man-hours a week. That's not even, that's beyond what I allow for vacation time my letter outlines several points, mostly that the way we've hired in the past no longer works. We're gonna have to go back to the way it used to be. I'm requesting to hire the 3 people. I'd like to hire 3 police officers and send them to the academy. If things worked out right, we'd be back to full staffing by September. Without disclosing a lot at this point, I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions or has seen my email.
Well, we all saw that email, and you explained it to us again today. I do think when we spoke last week about the hiring freeze, we did say unless there's a need for one-on-one. Now we have 3 going out. Just to maintain basic standards, you would need the 3 coming back in. So I think that fulfills the discussion we had about maintaining one-on-one, one in, one out.
I would just like to point out that, so the public is aware, I'm not asking for
Right,
additional staff, and I'm below where we were 10 years ago. And there are no part-time positions available anymore, and that's because of a nationwide policing shortage, and it hit our county really bad. So right now there's an academy in place, and everybody's spoken for. And now we need 3 people. If we fail to do something, it'll be 1.5 years before we even have an opportunity to hire. Within that time, I could lose other people. I have people available to also retire. And I'm not even sure that if we don't go out and hire people before the academy, if there'll be people available 1.5 years from now. So I don't know where that would take us afterwards. So I recognize I do have a young department, but we have to do something at this time to get us back to even, and I'm hoping things will level off based on the number of, based on the age of my department. Then we might be able to just keep up and hire the way we have in the past, or the last 30 years. Also, I'm not trying to get one on anybody. If I want to hire 3 police officers because that's what's available right now. The next retirement or resignation, I would attempt to hire the 4th dispatcher to bring us back to 4 dispatchers instead of being a cop heavy. I'm not trying to get, I'm just trying to fill those man hours to prevent overtime and to keep staffing at that minimum level we're at now. I want everybody to understand, I want the public to understand that.
Well, we also want the public to understand that this isn't necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, an increase in your budget, and the chief has historically come in at or under budget annually. So,
and I outlined that in my budget, that hiring the 3 new police officers, it doesn't create additional burden on my current budget.
And those, as we discussed, those 3 officers would then be tied to the village for a period of at least 5 years.
New York State General Municipal Law, if they left before a certain period of time, they would have to pay us back for putting them through school.
I think that's important. That's an important point.
So they're tied to us.
Do we have candidates available who are willing to?
There's a current civil service list, but we didn't,
Yeah,
there was only one that had the academy, and by the time we called for an interview, he was spoken for.
yeah. So we'd have to
James
canvass
Thomas.
people who haven't had the academy and then interview them.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we have to re-canvas, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if we could re-canvas,
And then
It's
we'll
probably
start
as
the top
many-
down and interview everybody, and
yeah.
I will only hire qualified candidates. So I want that clear also.
And once again, just to be clear, the positions are from retirement back in January. You've been without him since.
Been without a dispatcher for 9 months.
Right.
I've been without, yes, a full-time police officer as of December 27th, so January 1st.
And we've got another one retiring.
And
by
I have
the end
another
of
one
the month.
retiring in 2 weeks. And another one who may leave for other reasons. and I make you aware that it's a possibility. So we have, those possibilities will continue to exist.
Chief, I have a question that, you've been aware that I assume for quite a period of time, there's been a shortage, and I assume you've been looking, surveying for quite a period of time for available candidates.
I don't look until there's a need because I can't make promises to somebody without I will never make a promise to somebody without a guarantee. That's why I'm here today because I would not move forward. I am not gonna play with people's lives. I mean, and in this, and right now you can't because there's too many things that play into hiring a police officer. They have to pass a physical examination. They have to pass a mental, physical examination. They have to pass a civil service test. So that is just to get them in the door. Then they have to pass the academy, a 4-month academy. So there's so many things that weigh. It's not like I can have my eye on people. There's only a handful of people that fit that criteria. We used to graduate 28 a year with 2 full-time jobs. Now we're graduating 12 a year and there's 20 full-time jobs. So they're getting scooped up now in the academy before the opportunity occurs.
Is there anything for the chief?
Well, I think what the chief is saying, this would be a great time for someone getting out of high school to think about joining, applying for the academy, because jobs are plentiful.
Yep. We appreciate the work they do. Chief, thank you for your time and your report.
Thank you. We're too old then, we can't do that.
It's terrible.
Recreation Department is not here tonight, neither is Code Enforcement. Wastewater treatment plant.
We completed the waste transporter annual report and turned that into the DEC. We are currently working on getting more access points to our clear well so we can clean out the solids that has built up over the years. Right now we only have one access point and it's to the side of the clear well, and the clear well's 40 by 60 feet in length, so it's a big area. So if we had more access points, we could stick our pump hosing down there and be able to clear it out ourselves without getting anyone else involved with that. So that's what we have going on down there.
Okay, thank you. Also want to thank Trustee Wandell for the time you've been putting into both our water departments. Water treatment plant.
Currently working on a water withdrawal for the DEC.
And of course, just so the public knows, we've been talking about the chlorination failure and what we're going to do to replace that. So those continue. Thank you. Anything else for the board, for the department heads before we? No? Okay. New business, Russell Joy Park rates.
It'd just be a $10 across the board increase for each of the rates for rental. I think it's reasonable, and you know, I think we should do it.
That would not include anybody that's already booked for this year.
No.
It would be from the point that it would be passed until
Yes.
whenever.
Can
Any
we get-
discussion on that?
Can we get a resolution for that for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Next meeting?
Yeah.
Next meeting, please. Yes.
Was there a new application produced?
Ben and I are
Okay.
working on that with
Yeah.
Trustee Twitchell.
This is the one.
Not that
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I gave you.
Sorry, no.
Yeah,
Sorry.
is that the final draft or?
It's the increase in rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Okay.
what I found I didn't understand was the fee in parentheses. What is
That
that?
would be the higher
That's
rate.
the higher rate, $10 up.
Oh, in other words, the current updated increase.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
All right.
Yeah, currently, if you
Yeah.
ignore the parenthetic fees, it's exactly that. So Hamlet would be 35 for residents, and that would become 45, and the upper and lower at Russell Joy would be 55.
Any other new business?
I would like to see this on our website as a payable form, but I don't know if that's something the people who do our web could set up. I know they can pay our water fees that way, but can they turn
We
this
don't wanna
into a?
confuse it with them reserving it either. It's
Yeah.
two different issues, and it's quite important in the summer. People are very serious about the Russell Joy Park dates, the public is. So if we did that, I wouldn't want them to think they were reserving, I mean,
Right.
You would have to be
Yeah.
able to, if once something is reserved, block it out.
Yes,
And
so it
I think
wasn't,
that's
sort of
beyond
like they do with
Can be
a
done.
state park campground. If you
Right.
go and reserve it, those dates disappear from the availability map. And that might be a way.
that is, yeah.
Yeah.
they're not
We
gonna-
did previously have somebody, try to build us something like that, but it never functioned correctly. It
Correct.
was double booking or not booking at all, and, yeah.
Yeah, we can't have that.
I think that's a good idea, though, we should offer that.
It would be nice
Blackout
to
availability.
do that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be able to
Well,
black
high
it
school
out.
projects have
And
that.
then if someone comes in and makes a physical reservation, whoever takes that would have to enter it into the computer right on the spot.
Exactly.
What's the, what is the key policy gonna be this year for the restroom?
There's no key policy anymore.
Just gonna be,
Open in the morning,
They're open.
close at night.
Good.
We did it, that's the way we did it last year.
well, there was a period of time because some of the restrooms became, they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, we made sure that the, whoever had rented it had a key to it. Correct. Just to keep everybody else out, and they were responsible for it during that period of time.
But
Because
it
we-
also happens to the people who get in it before that period of time.
Well,
And there's nobody there to clean it up at that time.
not if it's locked up though.
Yeah.
Not if it's locked up, and so last year, there were at least 2 occasions when someone that rented it wanted the money back because the restroom was in deplorable condition, so they asked for the money back. And whatever we can do to avoid that this year, because I know it was a hardship for them.
Who is gonna be responsible for cleaning them this year?
So last year we did, a cleaner for this building, which worked out well every day during the week, and then we took a couple rec kits for the weekends.
Okay, I think we should keep, if that worked well then, once we establish that, then we should do the same.
I mean, honestly, as a public park, you have to have restrooms. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just, you can't, and, those of us who have played pickleball there and suddenly too much water in between matches, you have to have the restrooms.
Yeah, we don't want to have people using alternative locations.
How about the pavilions themselves? Was it, who cleans those? Is it DPW? Okay, because there was one incident I know that it was not good and they were not clean. I don't know the details, but
I think it's GBW.
So we clean them in the beginning of the year, we do like a good, cleaning, pressure wash and everything.
yeah.
I think the rules of renting, after you're done, you clean it up. I understand there's gonna get leaves that blow around there, we'll pick that up, but,
Yeah.
there's been times where we've had to go pick up after people's parties, and we're not always available to do that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they get, so after it's been used, does someone look at it and make sure it's cleaned up before? Because there's no key deposit now, right? So they're paying no deposit. So if they don't clean it up, there's
Yeah.
no.
For the most part, I don't think I think everybody's cleaned up and bagged their garbage and put it where it's supposed to be put. I think the fact that Scott has it, the dumpster where he has it has been a real, I think there's one in the lower pavilion too as well.
Yeah, there's 2 there.
Yeah. Any other new business? If not, old business, March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. The board had moving the meeting to the 18th But St. Patrick's Day is not a federal holiday or a state holiday. It is considered, I guess, a religious holiday. So there was talk of moving it back to the Monday, March 17th.
I wouldn't have a
Dave.
problem with that.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. I mean, who doesn't like St. Patrick's Day, but we got business to attend to. I hate to even use these two words, but I'm gonna use the two words. Food trucks. Last year, we had issues with some trucks being here almost every day, which under current structure, there was nothing stopping them from doing so. Unfortunately, there was resistance from those that have brick and mortar that have quite a bit of investment, pay employee taxes, do all these other things, and there was a little bit there. Having checked with other communities like Buffalo restricts the days that they can be there for lunch or dinner. I think it's not Tuesdays, it's Mondays and I believe Thursdays, because they also have food truck Tuesdays in Larkinville. But in the immediate downtown business core, they had restricted unless there was events. So we don't know if you want to talk about that now or not.
Well, I think the one thing we did do last year is we, on the application, we indicated that you couldn't be there overnight. Because one of the issues was that food truck parked there for weeks and didn't move.
We do have people who own the food trucks that would like to sit down with us and then have a discussion prior to. I mean, now the weather's changing, but you know, you do have to consider the people that have a sizable investment from some that own the buildings that they're in. You've got another local restaurant right now that wants to buy and operate the building that they're in. We already have down to, I think, only 2 or 3 restaurants that do lunch, and they feel that, you know, while they have insurance issues they have to pay for, and when their toilets break down and their stoves break down, or any of those things, property tax, that someone who is a food truck, they weren't complaining about the food truck. They weren't complaining about the food that the food truck sells. It was the frequency of the food truck in the downtown core, when people who are here 24/7, 365 days, and in some cases suffering because of the economy, just felt that it's kind of an unfair advantage to pay $100 and some a year and be able to come and go as many times as you please. So I think it's just, we also have to look out for our core businesses in the downtown, and out of respect to the food truck folks, they are working very hard too. So I think it's worth the discussion now, prior to getting warned.
What is the status on our food truck law? Is that still with the attorneys? Or did it just kind of?
No, I think that went back to the planning board,
Okay.
right? And
Yes.
then, yeah.
So
You
it's
talking
still
about
with the
that
planning
vendor
board?
law?
It is the longest running law
No.
reverted.
It was brought, so the planning board prepared it, it was brought to us and we tabled it and never brought it back up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
PPD resolution from.
Hold on,
I'm sorry,
just
go
one
ahead.
second.
So
So
let's-
do you wanna resurrect?
Yeah, let's put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you.
If everybody can review that in the next 2 weeks and be prepared for discussion to get a final draft going.
Need suggestions, yeah, because the weather's changing, so.
Would it be
Alyssa, can you get updated, I'm sorry, Anne Marie, I was looking at Alyssa. Anne Marie, can you get updated laws printed out for us in our boxes too?
Yes.
Okay, the most recent draft that we have for the,
For the vendor law?
Yeah.
Sure.
thank you.
I'm just wondering if it would be, since I'm on the planning board committee, to make communication with the planning board, if they have it in their hands, you know, that we'd like to get
We
this
can
thing.
set up a meeting with Brian. Or
Yeah, exactly.
PPD resolution from trustee Twitchell. She has asked that that be tabled for tonight's meeting since she is not here to discuss it. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Dog control officer.
We will be going into executive session to discuss our candidates.
Thank you. Any other old business brought to be before us?
Yes. So we met with the Department of Health and discussed, amongst other things, the chlorination system and the quote that we received from LaBella, the couple quotes that we got, and Paul and I discussed this at length. There was the question had arisen, who, in order to bypass the bid requirements, who needs to establish a state of emergency? And so we talked to the Department of Health. Department of Health said that they don't do that, it's up to us to do that. So we told LaBella that that's the knowledge that we're working with. We asked them to finalize their pricing so we could go out and talk to the PFC, because there was, the quotes they gave us didn't include the engineering quote. So I asked them to have that to me by today. Obviously that didn't happen. They had sent Paul and I an email. They wanted to speak with Mark G., the attorney, just to verify with him that we were correct regarding the bidding process. I left a message for both Mark and Matt today and didn't hear back from either of them. So I'll call again tomorrow, and when I hear anything from them, I'll update the board as to where that is. But I think we all understand the necessity to get moving with the chlorination system to ensure to the best of our ability that will not be the cause of another boil water order. So the sooner we get that underway, the better off we are. So Paul and I, as the water people, are pushing all parties to move that along.
How are we doing with those hoses?
We have hoses. We're good.
Good. All right. Thank you. There's no further discussion or any new business or old business to be brought before the board. I suggest that we close the workshop. And as per notice in the paper and website, we will now, it enables us to go right into our regular work session, correct?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is take a 5-minute break, just
Well, do you want to take these 20 minutes and go into executive sessions? We don't have to do it at the end.
it's up to you, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I make a motion that we enter into executive session to discuss employment within the Village of Fredonia.
I'll second that.
Trustee Esperson?
And we also need to discuss contract negotiation updates.
Okay.
Yes, aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wandell?
Aye.
Back as soon as we're done with our executive session. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to clear. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Village Hall in downtown Fredonia. I'm Mayor Mike Ferguson for tonight's Board of Trustees regular meeting at 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York, 14063 on this date, March 3rd, 2025. The regular meeting, which is beginning at 7:08. Call this meeting to order. Roll call of trustees. Trustee Brockler.
Here.
Trustee Syracuse.
Here.
Trustee Wandell.
Here.
Trustee Esperson.
Here.
Trustee Twitchell is away tonight. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Here we have approval of the minutes.
Whereas members of this board have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees special meeting of February 18th, 2025, now therefore be it resolved that the board may hereby approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
Second.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brotler?
Aye.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, once recognized, shall stand at the microphone and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves, or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
First speaker is James Linden.
I guess, that was for the public hearing, but I mean, if you want me to speak about it?
Oh, no,
Sure,
okay,
I
let's speak up.
I will. I'll say
It's
some-
public
I'll say
portion, go
something.
ahead.
I'll say something. What the heck? Pick a subject. Concerning the water village and the public health and safety of the water, because it is a public health and safety issue. I was at the county legislature this last week, and I was there because I had discovered that they had not paid back the more than $5 million that was borrowed from North County Water District, borrowed from the general fund, taxpayer money, more than five, it's almost $6 million. Now, I know that has nothing to do with this board here, but it does. That's money that the comptroller said they had to pay back, and I was in November I was there, and they assured me it would be paid back. I spoke before the legislature. They assured me right then and there it would be paid back, whether they had to borrow the money by the end of the year or not, because it was required by law. Now, apparently they don't go by that, because it didn't happen. And so here we are. We have the village has a contract for the safety of the village and the health of the community for the emergency connection. And I addressed that with them. I said, that was a long time ago, that contract, a number of years ago, the contract was put in place for the health and safety. We've had a number of issues where we could have utilized that and to protect the people of this community. And there's a lot of uproar about why we have issues. Well, some of these issues could have been prevented, I believe, if we had this safety put in place, that we were contracted with the county. And it appears to be an intentional neglect, because they're looking to take over our water system, and they're looking to have they paid more money from the general fund to pay. They just approved it this last week, $70,000. They did it as a grant. They called it out of the ARPA interest revenues. Well, I'll tell you what. There's all that money that was taken for taxpayer dollars to improve a water district for a very few members of our county. There's $70,000, again, to address revenues that will go to the county. For all these years, there's never been any money at all that I can recall that the county gave to the Village of Fredonia for the upgrade of our safety for the Village of Fredonia, for the health and safety of our water. It's only their special interest. So I expected that they should be addressing this, and this board should hold them accountable to that contract. I could go on, if you don't mind. They claimed they had a slush fund of over $40 million. They called it a slush fund in this meeting. It's a slush fund. That's the fund balance or county reserves. It's significantly higher than the previous year. How are they helping Fredonia? They want to take our revenues. That's not helping Fredonia. So, but yet they took $6 million. They gave it to JCC in Jamestown as a grant to build another JCC building. what's more important, our village water or another JCC building on the, I'm sorry, it was a YMCA building on the JCC campus. I apologize for that. So, a YMCA building. Now, of course, YMCA's are great and all, but I think our water is more important. And they're pushing us to go into this system that they can't even afford to operate. I don't, huh?
If you can wrap up.
Yeah, I can wrap it up. So I'm looking for the understanding of this board to realize that this county, it's not looking in your best interest or the village's best interest. And you need to understand that. Where is the best interest of this village? And we do have ample revenues now, if you look at your budgets, for your water system to move forward and keeping what we have, improving on what we have. It is possible without the input of the county and their kind of deceptive practice of where they've been going for a number of years with this North County Water District. It may have been a good idea at the beginning, but it's not working too well now. So thank you very much.
Robert Scott.
My name is Robert Scott at Pulaski Street. It's been quite the start to the new year with headlines like the village tax hike may start at 68%, union slams firefighter vote, village changes course, hires firefighter, and Ferguson Linden shouted out on issues. As I'm not on social media, I've heard it is worse there if I hear the frustration and remarks made by village officials. However, I personally like to offer my thanks to the mayor and the trustees for stepping up to do a tough job. It is appreciated, but at the same time, with the recent events, I have a little less confidence in the job being done. It seems that the village has taken a reactive versus a proactive approach in their dealings, which I find detrimental. As I only have 3 minutes and I've got one time-sensitive item to bring up here at the end, I briefly fact-checked the statements made at the last meeting and found out in the past 4 years my village taxes did go up. The 6 years prior, my village taxes remained exactly the same to the penny. So I guess both gentlemen were correct in their statements. I then researched what could have changed in the 7-year time period mentioned in the back and forth by viewing the March 20th, 2017 trustee meetings. Thank you, Chip. The mayor stated in the budget address that, quote, we are taking a reactive versus a proactive approach that I don't agree with, unquote. I guess things haven't changed a lot. The mayor went on to say conversations with residents revealed they do not want a tax increase and that hiring a paid fire chief, adding policemen, and upgrades costing $5.3 million were on the village's hope-to-do list. The mayor also stated that, quote, using the fund balance is not sustainable, but I do not recommend raising the tax rate. However, the water rate should be increased by $1.15 and the sewer rate by $1, unquote. I wonder if the hope-to-do list was completed in that budget year. So much for being proactive. Okay, the board at their last meeting requested that you have something positive to report or to suggest to please bring it forward. The time-sensitive item I mentioned above concerns the Chautauqua County Legislature, and to help the board in this matter, I have prepared a walk-on resolution for you to consider, as I do not know exactly when the Audit and Control Committee will be acting on this. It may be this week. It reads, be it resolved on this third day of March 2025 at a duly convened regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York, that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York are in favor of the Chautauqua County Legislature requesting the additional 1% in the sales tax rate for Chautauqua County remain in effect upon the expiration of the current authorization with the State of New York on December 1st, 2025. Furthermore, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York wish the Chautauqua County Legislature to take into serious consideration the suggestion made by legislator Fred Larson, Democrat of Jamestown, to increase the amount of the sales tax shared with the cities, towns, and villages from the current 15% to at least a minimum of 25%, if not 50-50 or 60-40 of the sales tax revenue generated. In addition, we would like to request that any increase in the revenue be shared mainly between the cities and villages to help them recover costs directly in promoting and enhancing their business districts to entice and help businesses to remain or establish locations in the municipalities. In conclusion, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York, wish to recognize and thank legislators Fred Larson, Democrat of Jamestown, Fred Johnson, Republican of Westfield, Marcus Buchanan, Democrat of Dunkirk, and the 8 other unnamed members in the Observer newspaper article for their support to refer the resolution back to the Audit and Control Committee for the consideration and recommendation to the entire Chautauqua County Legislature for their future discussion and vote.
You read my mind, Bob.
I have a few other explanations. My time is up. Hold those for another meeting in 2 weeks or whatever.
Thank you.
But I've got this if you want the copy of it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That was part of my report tonight, was to congratulate them on that option. I will, you want to pass that out?
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
I can make copies too.
All right. That closes the public portion of this meeting. We thank both gentlemen for their input. Correspondence.
Correspondence dated February 11, 2025 was received from Ben Wendell, Director of the Fredonia High School Drama Club, requesting permission to hang a banner across Temple Street from March 10th to March 29th.
Be it resolved that the request of Ben Wendell to hang a banner promoting their spring musical Something Rotten across Temple Street from March 10th until March 29th is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that all information regarding the request will be provided to National Grid and DFT.
Second.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Correspondence dated February 13, 2025 was received from Festivals Fredonia requesting permission to hang banners across Temple Street, across telephone wires located between Family Church Fredonia and Fredonia Village Hall.
Be it resolved that the request to hang banners across Temple Street for the following events is hereby approved 2 weeks prior to the event. Easter Festival, March 31st. Italian Heritage Festival, June 9th. Red, White, and Blues Festival, August 25th. Harvest Moon Festival, October 6th. Miracle on Main Street, November 17th. Be it further resolved that all information regarding this request will be provided to National Grid and DOT.
Second.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Correspondence dated February 25th was received from Paul Pinto, Principal, Northern Chautauqua Catholic School, requesting permission to hang a banner across Temple Street promoting Northern Chautauqua Catholic School.
Be it resolved that the request from Paul Pinto to hang a banner promoting Northern Chautauqua Catholic School from March 7th through 21 is hereby approved. Be it further resolved that all information regarding this request will be provided to National Grid and DFT.
Second.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Before we go any further with this, a discussion I had in my first year, last year, was what is important to bring before the board and what is important not to be before the board. Board, by definition, makes law and policy, approves law and policy. National Grid, DFT has taken care of the banners. That I know for a fact that if there was anything questionable with these banners, DFT and National Fuel would call us immediately. They're for annual events. I'm not sure this is the best use of the village's time in discussing whether we're going to approve something that essentially National Grid and DFT are the ones who take care of. Same thing when we talk about things like scheduling the gazebo for the Easter Bunny to read and those types of things. You look at the schedule, you see if it's available, you fill in the time, and it's a clerical issue as part of management as opposed to sitting here and asking if we can, no disrespect to anybody who's asking for banner hanging, but it's not a law, it's not necessarily a policy, It's an approval to do something that's basically taken care of by National Fuel and DFT in the first place. So I would ask for your consideration to maybe allow that to be done just as we do when we don't announce every gazebo that's being rented. We don't announce any of those things when there's picnics that are being booked. And in many cases, unless there was a question as to vulgarity or something with a banner, we don't even get to see the banner. It's, can I put up a banner, yes or no? When the reality is it's DFT and National Fuel that take care of that. And we thank them for taking care of that.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
The code enforcement office's supervisor asked that this be done. It's a mere formality, so, but I think Chuck does want it to be done this way, so any discussion that you want to have will be with him as well.
Correct?
Yeah.
And I've had a discussion with him about it. So, just under consideration, doesn't need to be discussed now. If you want to bring it up later, we can.
Correspondence was received from Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce requesting membership dues.
Be it resolved that the request from the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce for the 2024-25 membership renewal is hereby approved in the amount of $550.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor's report. Tomorrow I'll be making my monthly appearance on WDOE's Viewpoint. As mentioned last Friday, Chief Price and I attended the second meeting of law enforcement officials and Fredonia State student leaders. John Esperson, trustee, was able to attend the first meeting with us. Instead, he was able to make a press conference appearance for me last Friday. He can't be in two places at one time, so I thank him for doing that. President Colson, along with the full slate of student activities and student government leaders, continue to discuss Not Fred Fest, and you heard Chief Price's comments that this is the first time in 30 years that he's really seen some amazing cooperation. And I want to thank President Colson personally for his guidance and direction, as well as the Fredonia State student leadership and the Fredonia State department heads who all are taking part in this, as well as all the other law enforcement that I mentioned earlier. If you did not watch it earlier, I want to thank the New York State Police. I want to thank our Chautauqua County Sheriff's Department, the Fredonia Fire Department, the Dunkirk Police Department, as well as the college's police department, as all were in attendance for the first meeting. And we are very encouraged in the direction that we feel Not Fred Fest will take in the next couple of years. So, as promised, we will continue to keep you updated as we get closer. Last Friday, I was interviewed for an article about Not Fred Fest in the meetings for Leader newspaper. We submitted our CHQ Community Development Grant for review. Hopefully, it will be accepted by the board. Last Thursday, we had lunch here in Fredonia with CHQ Chamber President Dan Heitzenreiter and Larry Fiorella to discuss needs and possible meetings to benefit the village over the next 11 months. The possibility of having a CHQ coffee or things where local businesses, besides the monthly meetings or quarterly meetings by the chamber, could meet locally and come up with ways to help the community and local business move forward, which you know is a key to success. Last Thursday, we continue negotiations with both the PBA and fire department unions. We're working together with unions to stagger the end dates so we don't have to worry about completing negotiations every 4 years with the same groups. Crosswalk lights and law. I want to speak today that even today, this afternoon, just hours before this meeting, I was stopped right in front of Mr. Drayo's office and the new Monster Beach as a young lady tried to pass through the crosswalk. While I stopped and the people behind us stopped, the young woman was almost hit head-on by two gentlemen who waved her off and drove right through. It is the law that when someone enters a crosswalk, not just in New York State, but anywhere, the pedestrian has the right of way and you are to stop. I want to thank Trustee Esperson for talking to a company that we're currently seeking a bid for addressing this at NICOM that I could not be at. And there is a sign that we're looking at possible rectangular sign, same as the one we have up now, but would have lights installed that would be flashing 24 hours a day and would be powered by a solar panel, so you wouldn't have to replace batteries or anything like that. They just sent us the quote, and we'll be looking for funds, not out of our budget, but funds from the state or the outside sources to try to fund that for the safety and continued safety of our citizens. And God bless anybody crossing those streets. But again, I remind everybody it's a law. When somebody is standing there waiting to cross, it is your job to stop. Thank you. We met with the Department of Health, Labella Associates, and Water Treatment Supervisor Louis Fred to address concerns with the chlorination equipment of the current plant. And we will be announcing our summer music series, which will be Summer Sounds and Sips, beginning in July 26th, running through August 23rd in the gazebo on Barker Commons. I will be visiting local shops and businesses, local museums and attractions to encourage them to open on Friday nights. And use your sidewalks, use whatever you need, have some nice offerings in your restaurants, and let's make Friday nights in downtown Fredonia a place to remember and welcome people with open arms. The last thing I have is exactly what Mr. Scott had brought up, actually two quick things. I want to thank the legislature for the consideration of higher distribution of the sales tax to villages and towns and cities. I think it's long overdue, and of course, as you can tell by the budgets of most of the communities in the county, is sorely needed. So we appreciate that. Lastly, I was asked to sign on as a member of NICOM, which is the New York Conference of Mayors, by Barbara Van Epps, who is the executive director. She says, "Dear Mayor, as you know, after a 15-year drought, the 2024-25 adopted state budget has finally included a $50 million increase in unrestricted aid for cities, villages, and towns, referred to as temporary municipal assistance. While we appreciate that does not translate into significant dollars for our members, it was a major step forward and hopefully the beginning of stronger and more meaningful state-local partnership. Governor Hochul's 25-26 executive budget does include the additional $50 million, but we would like the final 25-26 budget to build upon this critical investment so they can then strengthen our communities and lower the property tax burden on our residents. In that vein, I'm asking you to sign our sign-on letter attached to Governor Hochul, State Majority Leader Stuart Cousins, and Assembly Speaker Hasty, urging them to come together in support of AIM funding in 25 and 26 and beyond. With the backing of New York's nearly 600 mayors, we greatly improve our chances for success. Thank you for all you do, Barbara Van Epps, and I gladly took part in that as a mayor. So there is good news, and there are positive things happening. That's the end of my report, and we will now turn over to trustee and committee reports. We'll start ladies first.
I interviewed dog catcher potential candidates this week. They will be hearing from us pending a resolution. Met with the police chief to discuss his staffing. Met with the PBA to discuss their union contract negotiations. Everything's, I'm just keep it on. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Esperson.
Yeah, we met with members of the police and fire unions to begin contract negotiations, and they will be ongoing. We met with the Department of Health to discuss their annual inspection of the water treatment plant and discrepancies that were found. I had asked that they send us a copy of that so that we can have that on our website, so the residents can see what the Department of Health has to say.
It's on there.
Oh, it's on there, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. I met with Scott to discuss their new budget, the old budget changes that were made, and to discuss any concerns that he has on the impact of it, and I asked him to relay those to you or Alyssa. I don't know if he's done that or not. I went to the North County Water District meeting, and on Friday, Scott and I went to a rally at the Town of Westfield DPW we're looking for an increase in CHIPS funding. That was held in conjunction with Senator Burrell and Legislator Molitor, Assemblyman Molitor. There were municipal DPW supervisors from around the county were in attendance as well. There were probably 100 people there. So CHIPS funding has been part of the governor's budget for a long time, but has not increased in many years while our costs have increased substantially. So, and I know this was an issue at NICOM. They're looking for an increase in CHIPS funding from municipalities as well. So, you know, anything we can do to help the cause, we do. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Trustee Brockman.
Okay. Yeah, reading through the Chautauqua County Health Department's report on our water system, it's very obvious that a lot of the deficiencies are related to the design of the plant and the infrastructure there. Many things that they're citing are things that just cannot be changed without tearing it down and rebuilding. And I just wanted to comment on that as, you know, there's quite a few. Many of these are long-standing. Some of these deficiencies, of the 33 they cite, and 9 of these are prior to 2017, or no later than 2017 that the village was made aware of them. 5 of them are from 2008 or before. So it's very, very definitely an issue that is ongoing. 2/3 of the capacity of the reservoir is silted up and does not exist any longer. We just don't have the water. So I just wanted to mention that. I encourage everyone to read this. It's a good read.
It is on our website, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. Trustee Wandell.
Right, 2 things, planning board and DPW committee reports. Planning board, I attended a planning board meeting last week, February 9th, or 2 weeks ago, February 19th. The agenda highlighted the village battery storage law, which is being currently developed. It is modeled after the town of Pomfret law. Modifications include setback ranges and fencing height restrictions, and also considered were fire hazards with lithium-ion storage batteries, including toxic fumes and impact to surrounding areas. Additionally, the level of response training from the Fredonia Fire Department to a battery fire was discussed. These are very significant issues that require attention and understanding to develop this law. Finally, the cannabis law was discussed, and as it relates to a potentially new cannabis shop in the village. Next planning board meeting is March 19th, and I will be attending that. DPW wastewater treatment plant. Had a phone meeting on February 25th with LaBella engineer Matt Higgins and plant supervisor David Felt. Discussion centered on upcoming ESG application due date April 10th. This grant is New York State 20% match up to a $50,000 maximum. David is working with our treasurer to complete this application. David identified 2 major concerns with the plant. They are 2 grid pumps. They are at the head end of the plant, and the grid pumps are what's responsible for the initial process of breaking down the waste matter. They're in pretty rough shape, and so they are definitely on the radar for replacement. Excessive sludge on the clear well bottom floor is an issue which was highlighted at our department head workshop today. That issue is currently being addressed. It does require more attention, and LaBella has been consulting with, or is consulting with their structural engineer based on this phone meeting that the engineering firm is going to require some plan and section views to review and assess the engineering and construction work. So there are limitations with access right now, and that's basically what we're talking about, is to improve the access there. Priority level of both of these items is very high. LaBella responded positively and is willing to fast track that work. Other significant plant issues are being considered in a more comprehensive future grant. Labella has offered to scan all the current plant drawings, which will be a great asset for the plant, and archive them digitally. DPW waste or water treatment plant met with the supervisor Louis Fred on February 19th for a better part of the day, toured through the plant to identify and discuss current issues, especially those prioritized by our county Department of Health. Special focus on the chlorinator subsystem and immediate relevant issues. Inspected the potential storage area for chlorine totes. The garage is currently being considered but must be modified to make it a temperature-controlled environment. Reviewed current automation system panel. It is likely capable of integrating with a new chlorinator. Had a phone discussion with the Siemens engineer. His name is Tom Elvin. He's been working with the plant for quite a while. After our discussion, he emailed the relevant documents that will help to understand if integration is viable with the current system. Then I met with the same person and Louis Fred on February 26th in person to deep dive into that subject matter for the chlorinator system replacement and how it can be integrated into the system. A key part of that, and this is highly advocated by our county Department of Health, is to automate the chlorination dosing system. And let's see, February 25th, I attended a meeting in the mayor's office, and Trustee Esperson had just referred to this. 3 representatives from the Chautauqua County Department of Health. Discussion was focused on the inspection report, which was dated February 18th, and that outlines the village water supply assessment and corresponding deficiency. The follow-up meeting is planned for, I think it's this week, March 6th. And lastly, met with the mayor last week on February 26th for 1 hour. We discussed village business, and I reported on the status of my committee assignments. That's it.
Thank you. So you can see our trustees have been very busy, of course, just since our last meeting. Additional reports.
The code enforcement report for the January 2025. Building permits issued 19, inspections 17, certificates of occupancy 10, certificates of compliance 8, violations found 1, violations found satisfied 0. Fees collected, permit fees $1,540, rental fees $1,095, certificate of compliance fees $150, electrical license fees $950 for a total of $3,735. Rental inspections 3, rental renewals 1. 19 permits generated $1,540 in revenue. The estimated cost of work for the month of January was $341,300. That's the only report I have.
Thank you. Before we go into the resolutions, Mr. Scott, I want to thank you for introducing that resolution. It has to be presented to the board members, and one of them may or may not sponsor that. We'll have that for our next meeting. Okay.
Maybe too late, who knows?
We hope not. Going to resolutions.
Whereas the
Trustee
village
Sirkis, go
requires
ahead.
the replacement of the furnace at the DPW, and whereas Gugino Plumbing and Heating, Inc., Fredonia, New York, provided a quote for the replacement and installation of a run-true by train furnace in the amount of $3,600, and whereas the furnace replacement is necessary for the village's purpose, therefore be it resolved, the village board hereby authorizes the payment of $3,600 to Gugino's Plumbing and Heating, Inc., for the purchase and installation of the furnace.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Sirkis.
Aye.
Be resolved that the training request of Louis Fred, Chief Operator at the Water Treatment Plant, to attend the Water Quality Monitoring Workshop at no charge to the village at the Mina Finley Lake Community Center, Finley Lake, New York, on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 is hereby approved. Also attending the workshop will be water plant employees Jonah Brock, Marcus Bentley, and Corbin Bissell.
Second.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Be it resolved that the training request of David Felt, Chief Operator at the Wastewater Treatment Plant, to attend the 43rd Annual Greater Buffalo Environmental Conference in Buffalo, New York, on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, at a cost not to exceed $323 $0.80 is hereby approved. Also attending the conference will be wastewater treatment plant employees Mike Woodward.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Whereas the farmer's market has requested the exclusive use of 911 Church Street as well as East Barker Commons from 7 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., May 17th, 2025 through October 25th, 2025 on Saturday mornings. Okay, so that makes it sound like, okay. Whereas the farmer's market is requesting to close Church Street between Temple and Day Street and between Village Hall and Main Street during these hours. Whereas the farmer's market is requesting the use of the downstairs restrooms and equipment shed during these events. And whereas the farmer's market would like to reserve Barker Commons for the 4th annual New Horizons Band concert on Saturday, July 12th, 2025. This date is pending confirmation. Be it resolved that the farmer's market has permission for use of 911 Church Street as well as the East Barker Commons for approved market vendors each Saturday morning beginning May 17th, 2025 through October 25th, 2025 and subject to the direction and control of the Fredonia Police Department.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Before we close out the meeting, I want to mention that last announcement. Those types of announcements to me are important for the village because it does talk about street closure, it does talk about traffic movement, and the board needs to make those decisions. So please don't think that, the bigger events like this, bigger events like the Farm Festival, some of the things that Festivals Fredonia is doing and requesting, it's important that the board is aware of all those things and does make those type of decisions, just suggestions. Executive session we've already had, thank you. So the next Village of Fredonia Board of Trustees workshop and board meeting will take place on Monday, March 17th at 6 p.m. in the trustee room, second floor, Village Hall, the board meeting to follow. We don't have a hearing scheduled for that, right?
No.
Okay. So once again, it will not be Tuesday. It will curtail some of our St. Patrick's Day fun.
Or not.
I make a motion that we end the meeting.
Second.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Thank you.
Who did that?